Again, just not sleeping because we were worried and sitting outside because we didn't want the building to fall on us in one of the aftershocks. And just listening to everybody singing in the streets. So for a long time during the evening, it really was just screaming and crying, and you could hear it. And then as that kind of died down, there were people right on the street right outside of where we were. There were lots of people, because this neighborhood, obviously, as we were in this standing building, wasn't as badly affected. There were lots of people just sitting on the street, but you could hear them singing, but you could hear songs like coming from all directions. So different songs, because that's all you could hear. And for some reason, we all noticed there were no dogs barking, no animals that we could hear either. No vehicles. Everybody had parked their cars for the night because there's no lights. No sirens. Whatever else you might hear, there was nothing but singing. It was a pretty incredible situation.
Were any of the songs familiar?
No, they were all Creole, and so we had no idea what they were saying. And we couldn't really sing with them, but we, it got us through the night too. So I kind of selfishly benefited from it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did anything else really strike you as surprising?
I mean, I guess everything was shocking, right? I do think we had there's like a whole, so that's all like the Haiti story, right? And then there's a whole other story of like when we got to the embassy, which was kind of crazy in and of itself. It wasn't like, and what was interesting was that whenever you showed up somewhere, you're like, okay, we might be here for 2 weeks. What's the strategy? And so like that, you never really felt like when we were at this woman's house on Tuesday, we're like, okay, like they have a chlorinated pool. So they have a chlorinated pool, like that's the water we're going to be drinking once her clean water runs out. And for all I know, she is actually drinking that right now. And the same thing when we got to the embassy, we took food with us from her house because we didn't know if the embassy had food because there were no communications, which was good because the embassy actually didn't have food. We didn't know if we were going to be there for 2 weeks because we had no idea if flights were getting out. We had no idea what we were doing. We were just like, if we're at the embassy, we'll be safe. And at some point, the American government would get us out if they can. So, yeah, I mean, I guess I was surprised at how underprepared the embassy is to handle having people come in that sense. And I feel like American embassies and all embassies, like that's one of their jobs, right? Like when there's disasters in a country, they have to house Americans until they can get them out of the country. And when you look at a country like Haiti, just 5 years ago, they were deporting people because of a coup. And I heard, we actually talked to this woman who worked with people that were there during the coup, and that was so much worse. Like, that it was complete chaos, and because it was such chaos, and they had no way to verify people, they were actually just grabbing white people, and Haitian Americans going to get on the planes. So we didn't have those problems, but they didn't, there was order in the things that the embassy knows how to do. So there were lines like 1 through 20, like whenever you walk into any embassy, it looks like a DMV, and you can okay, do you have a passport? Do you not have a passport? Here are the forms to fill out. Like, you have to fill out a loan form because your plane flight is going to be a loan. Like, they're not going to give it to you. You have to fill out a lost passport form if you lost your passport. Okay, see you in the morning. And there were no cots. There were no... Which they could have had some cots in a closet somewhere that they brought down for us. There was basically no medical supplies and no food. And there was this clinic or clinical mission clinic that was like some sort of church group that had come down the night before to run clinics in a town in the mountains. So on Tuesday night they were driving up to the mountains, and the mountains weren't as badly affected, and so when they felt it, they thought it was just the road was so bad that they barely even noticed. They're like, oh, there's kind of a landslide thing going on. They swerved and they kept going. So when they got to where they were going, they were told, and they're like, oh, what do we do? So they just woke up in the morning. They ran their clinic anyways because these people were expecting it, and the people in the mountains had some injuries, like a brick had fallen on their foot or something, so it wasn't that horrible. So this team was a couple of doctors and then lots of college kids that were just volunteering that weren't even pre-med, and they had gauze and pain medicine, right? So they ran their clinic and then they headed back down. And for some reason, they decided, they got worried. We just can't guarantee your safety. We really want you to go to the embassy, even though like you have some medical supplies. They thought they were gonna help, and then at some point they're like, right now we just should go to the embassy, and then like maybe we can come back or something. Which, you know, not that the Haitian people didn't need it, but there were a lot of Americans that really did also need medical supplies, and they would have had absolutely nothing had these people not shown up. So they ran an impromptu medical clinic. I heard that on Tuesday night, or on Wednesday morning, they actually did impromptu surgery on the Spanish ambassador. I'm not like 100% positive. And then before he was airbagged out, were one of the only. They had food that they were giving out. They had crackers. They had some other stuff that they were giving to everybody. And they had, you know, were kind of checking everybody for their injuries. So the really seriously injured were airbagged out. So they didn't have to deal with those. But, like, this woman we were with had jumped out the window at Funka's and she had a cracked rib. So they were, I mean, again.
So was she on the third floor with you?
Mm-hmm. But she wasn't in the meeting with us. So she just didn't make it to the door, and she decided she didn't know if she had time, and so she jumped.
Wow.
Out of the third floor window. Only a cracked rib, I mean.
And so you all ran down the stairs and out of the building.
And just out of the building. The building just didn't fall, because I don't know why. Just didn't.
Well, that's good.
The building next door did fall. The building next door that they were about to move into in a month, they were going to expand. And that one was gone. Again, lucky. I guess lucky is the word. I don't know what it is, but I didn't watch anybody die, and I realized once I got to the embassy that was not the case for most people. So some of these other people at the embassy had been at the grocery store, and they were close to the door, and they ran out of the door, and they were fine, and the whole entire grocery store collapsed, and they just watched the door come down on everybody. This other couple that was at the embassy with us had been in the Hotel Montaigne that's making the news so much, and they were out on the 4th-story terrace. So the building is 5 floors, and they were having a drink on the 4th-story terrace. So if you think about a building like that, that's actually the best place you can possibly be. There's nothing above your head, and you're outside. But the building, as we all know by now, had completely collapsed. So they're on this terrace, and they just like fell. So they're like sliding down, knowing full well that there's 200 people inside. So they were able to like crawl out, because by the time it stopped, they were on the ground, because as one floor fell into the next. So they were fine, basically unscratched. But, you know, I'm still hearing, the latest news report was they pulled 8 people out. Now, does that mean 192 people died? I don't know. But that's not what they're not telling you that. They're just telling you 8 people got out, and I know that there were 200 people in there, because I know people that were there. It was a huge hotel.
How much did the landscape of Port-au-Prince change?
I mean, so the interesting thing about Port-au-Prince is that it's so hilly that there's a lot of times when you get these really amazing views, or